Welcome back. We are doing biology paper 1, May June 2019, rating 1-1. So let's begin. The first question says, the diagram shows a cell from a plant leaf and a leaf from an animal skin. Which part will stain blue-black with iodine solution? That means when it turns blue-black, its initial color is yellow. So when it turns blue-black, that means starch is present. And we know starch is only glucose, is only made in a plant cell and not an animal cell. So these two are out because this is an animal cell because it only has a cell membrane. So we're left with B and A. So A, we can see a cell wall, and B is chloroplast. So obviously chloroplast contains chlorophyll, which traps sunlight and converts it into chemical energy to be stored in the glucose manufactured during photosynthesis. So it has to be B. Moving on towards question number 2, the diagram shows a plant cell after being placed in a solution for an hour. What provides the explanation for the appearance of the cell? We can see that a plant cell usually has a very large sap vacuole, and we can see the cytoplasm has shrunken away, and the vacuole has decreased in size as well. So the cell has gained water and is turgid. No, this wouldn't have looked like it then. The cell has gained water and is no longer turgid. Obviously wrong, because when it gains water, it gets turgid. But these are not the cases. The cell has lost water and is turgid. No, the cell has lost water and is no longer turgid. Now, turgid is a state when turgor pressure is applied, and turgor pressure is applied when water moves in, the vacuole increases inside, and that pushes the cell contents against the cell wall, and then cell wall it applies an opposite pressure so that to prevent it from bursting. This is why it gets turgid. The diagram shows cells in the root of a plant that is absorbing water from the soil. How does the water potential of the cell marked 2 differ from the water potentials of the cell marked 1 and 3? So we can see since water has to travel from this place to this area, right? Because this is soil, it absorbs water, goes from here and here, so it has to be less than 1. So now mark cell 2 has to be higher than cell 1 and lower than cell 3. Higher than cell 1 and higher than cell 3. No. Higher than cell 1. If it was higher than cell 1, then it would have then the water would have moved in this direction, but this is not the case. The water is moving from the soil in the root and from the root to cell 2. Lower than cell 1 and higher than cell 3. If it's lower than cell 1, then the water will move in this direction. If it's higher than cell 3, then the water will move in this direction, which we want. Moving on towards question number 4. Which statement about enzymes is not correct? All enzymes are made of protein. This is correct. Enzymes are biological catalysts. This is correct. Enzymes are destroyed during the reaction that they're involved in. No. Most human enzymes work best at temperatures. Oh, so this is wrong. So we have to find the statement which is not correct. Because enzymes, they remain unchanged after every chemical reaction. What is the effect of lack of nitrate ions on plant leaves? As I told you earlier as well, when nitrate ions are responsible for green color plus the growth of plant, while magnesium ions are responsible for green color, like for chlorophyll manufacture. All leaves turn very dark green. No, leaves lose their yellow color. This is for magnesium. The leaves wilt. The young leaves grow very slowly. Yes. The graph shows how 2 different conditions affect the rate of photosynthesis. Which conditions are being altered in graph 1 and graph 2? So graph 2, these are okay. So you have to understand the fact that these kind of graphs are usually for temperature, and here we can see that it can be any other factor. So it looks like B. These kind of graphs are always for temperature, because even when we talk about enzyme reaction, we always make it like this. At first it grows and then it just drops down. Moving on towards question number 7. A plant has leaves with both green and white areas. One of its leaves is partly covered with aluminium foil which blocks light. So this is a green area of leaf. That means this contains chlorophyll. This is aluminium foil. This is the white area of the leaf. The plant is then placed under a lamp for 24 hours. After this time, discs are cut from the areas of the leaf shown and tested with iodine solution. So iodine solution, again, as I told you, is used to test for starch, and its initial color is yellow, and in the presence of starch it turns blue-black. Which of the leaf discs will give a blue-black color when tested with iodine solution, which will contain starch basically? So not the white areas, neither this, because it's blocking sunlight, so it's not manufacturing glucose. Only this part, because this is uncovered, it is green, and it is exposed to sunlight, so it is photosynthesizing. So Y only. The diagram shows the section of the wall of the small intestine, into which structure most of the lipid components of diet absorb for transfer to the rest of the body. We know fats are absorbed in the lymphatic capillary, and glucose and amino acid are absorbed in the blood capillaries. So this is lymphatic capillary, so this is A. Moving on towards question number 9. The diagram shows the arrangement of human teeth in lower jaw, which tooth is an incisor. So we know that these are incisors, these are canines, these are molars, and these are premolars. So this is D. Which statement describes the function of the stomach? Now stomach, it absorbs indigestible food material. No, it doesn't absorb. This is wrong. It is a place where protease and bile work. No, bile works in duodenum. It is the first place in the alimentary canal where starch digestion begins. Very wrong, because starch digestion starts in mouth. It secretes protease, strong acid gas. Which statement best describes the movement of water through the stem of a plant? Water moves up the stem as it evaporates from the leaves. Yes, because this is known as transpiration. We know when water is constantly being evaporated from the surface of the mesophyll cell and into the outer air, water is being pulled up because of transpiration. So water moves up the stem as it is pushed by water entering the roots. No, this is the answer. Water moves the stem because it is used in photosynthesis. No, water moves up the stem by osmosis. Very wrong as well. Moving on towards question number 12. A plant was placed in water containing black dye. After 24 hours, the plant was removed and sections were taken from the root and the stem. Which diagram shows the result? So we know water is being transported by xylem, and in root, xylem is the structure, and in stem, xylem is the inner structure. So in both cases, it's the inner structure. So apparently it's going to be this option, because water is carried by xylem, and if black color is added in water, it will be carried by the xylem, and therefore it will stay in black. Phloem does not carry water. In a muscle, which substance is shown at movement from the plasma into tissue fluid? So plasma into tissue fluid means, for example, if I have a cell here, and if I have tissue fluid here, there's going to be a capillary, which is going to have the plasma in it, and this is the capillary which came from the aorta, and then artery, and then arterioles, and then capillaries. So it's going to contain high concentration of glucose and oxygen, and this is going to contain high concentration of carbon dioxide and all. Also, from the plasma into the tissue fluid, it has to be glucose and oxygen. A patient inhales a drug. Which chamber of the patient's heart would be the first to receive blood containing the drug? It has to be when the person inhales a drug, so that is being carried in the air, and that has to goes in the lung, and from the lung the blood comes back to the heart through pulmonary vein. So this is B. Moving on towards question number 15. Which table shows vessels carrying blood to and from the heart, liver, and lungs? So now blood to organs is pulmonary artery. No, pulmonary artery carries the blood to lungs. This is wrong. Pulmonary artery, organ, heart, blood away from the no. Pulmonary vein, it takes the blood to, okay, so pulmonary vein, heart, and then pulmonary artery. Okay, so blood to organ, pulmonary vein, yes. So pulmonary vein brings the blood back to heart and takes it away from the heart through pulmonary artery. Hepatic portal vein carries high concentration of glucose and amino acids to the liver, and hepatic vein carries the deoxygenated blood away from the liver. And pulmonary artery takes the blood to lungs, and this can be the answer. Which statement about anaerobic respiration in humans is correct? It only happens in the cells of the lungs? No, it happens in muscles. It only happens when oxygen supply exceeds oxygen demand. No, oxygen demand exceeds the oxygen supply. It releases carbon dioxide. It releases lactic acid. It releases less energy than aerobic respiration. Yes. Moving on towards question number 17. The diagram shows the human gas exchange system, which label shows the position of the larynx. So we know first it is larynx, then comes trachea, larynx, and then larynx is that just a common part where you see, like when you open your mouth, you're gonna see mouth, and then you're gonna have the larynx, and then we're gonna start the trachea. The larynx, trachea, and then esophagus, and all of that. Which label shows the position of the larynx? This is larynx, this is trachea. It divides into bronchiole, bronchus, and then bronchioles, and so A. The graph shows how the pressure and volume inside the lungs changes during one complete breath, at which point are the muscles of diaphragm starting to contract. So there's something that you need to understand. In cases of exhalation and inspiration, what happens first, arrangements are made in your body, and then the air is welcomed in your body, or air is kicked out of your body. For example, if I have to breathe in, then first my body makes some arrangements, and for that internal intercostal muscles relaxes, external intercostal muscles contract, diaphragm contract, and all of these arrangements are made, and then we welcome the guest, like the air, we welcome the air. So just like this, first they're asking at which point the muscles of the diaphragm start to contract. They contract when we have to breathe in. So when we breathe in, the volume starts to increase. So when the volume starts to increase, and they're saying starting to contract, that means that, for example, if we take A, so now at A we can see that when when arrangements are being made in our body, the volume has to increase so that pressure decreases, and then the air flows from the outside and into the inside. So at A, this is the A. Why? Because at A our diaphragm is starting to contract, and gradually the volume increases. It can be B, because after B the diaphragm is starting to relax. We have to tell when diaphragm is starting to contract. Moving on towards question number 19. The diagram shows the kidneys and their associated structures, which row identifies P, Q, R, and S. So this is kidney, this is ureter, this is urinary bladder, and urethra. So P is kidney, Q is ureter, bladder, urethra. By which mechanism would the body be able to lose most heat on a hot, dry day if the surrounding temperature is higher than body temperature? Then again, we have blood vessels in the skin become narrower. No, they dilate so that more blood can flow near the skin and more heat can be lost. Hair erector muscles relax. Yes, shivering. So they're asking, this can be the answer, this can be the answer as well. But the thing is that we need to lose most heat. What is the fastest way of losing, the greatest amount of heat from our body? And that is what glands become more active. These are gonna be really slow acting on our body, and it will take a lot of time to remove heat. What are the short-term effects of adrenaline on the body? When adrenaline is secreted, the blood glucose concentration, it increases. Heart rate increases because you start respiring more, and so heart has to get more carbon dioxide out of your body and more oxygen in. Decreased heart rate, no. Increased blood glucose concentration and increased heart rate. This is 3 and 4. Moving on towards question number 22. How does hormonal control usually differ from nervous control? Speed of message is slower in hormonal control, and duration of effect is short term, long term. For example, adrenaline, that has very long-term effects as well. Insulin and all of these hormones have usually great, they, as compared to nervous control, hormones have a relatively long-term effects on our body. A girl is waiting at a bus stop and is watching a bus traveling towards her. What happens? So when something is coming towards, that means she's viewing a closed object. So when closed object is being near, our ciliary muscles, they contract, and the lens, they become more rounded, so they become like this, and there's less tension, they become slack. It's 23D. This is another part of 2023 syllabus, so we're not going to be doing this question. Moving on to question number 25. Now we have question number 25. Which statement about the use of heroin are correct? Addiction occurs as higher and higher doses are needed to get the same effect. Addiction is, when obviously you have to take more and more amount to achieve the same effect. So this can happen in heroin. So these are out. Then we have everybody who takes a dose of heroin becomes an addict. No, we have to take at least 2 or 3 doses of heroin to become an addict. So this is wrong. Then we have tolerance. Tolerance is when your body can survive greater amounts of that drug. So this is correct as well. Medical assistance is always said to withdraw. Not always. This is like a very strong word to use. Not always. What are characteristics of bacteria? It contains cytoplasm. Yes. Have DNA. Yes. Nuclear membrane present. No. It doesn't contain a nucleus, so obviously it doesn't have any nuclear membrane. Which can be produced using bacteria? Alcohol. Bacteria only makes yogurt, and it makes cheese. So it has to be yogurt and cheese. These are made by fungus, so it has to be U27C. Moving on towards question number 28. What eventually happens to all the energy in an ecosystem? Now, what eventually happens to all the energy in an ecosystem? We know the energy flows in a non-cyclic manner. What do we mean by that? It's because it comes off as light energy and then ends at heat energy, because decomposers act on decaying matter and they respire and then they release heat energy. So it is lost from the system as heat. It is recycled? No. It is used by the producers? No. It is used by top carboners? No. Which statement about the organism at the beginning of food chain is correct? They cause decay and provide minerals for the ecosystem. They're asked for at the beginning of food chain, and that is plants. So no, they feed an animal, they recycle energy, they absorb nutrients and photosynthesize, because every food chain begins with plants. The diagram shows part of the carbon cycle. What are the processes X and Y? So X says that green plants are giving out carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and when do they give out carbon dioxide? When they are respiring. And Y says dead organisms are giving out X shows that carbon dioxide in the atmosphere is being used up by the plants for photosynthesis, and Y shows that dead organisms are releasing carbon dioxide. So dead organisms are obviously decomposition, so it's A. Moving on towards question number 31. How does an anti-malarial drug control malaria? It kills the mosquito when the mosquito bites a person? No. Anti-malarial drug is chloroquine, and what it does is when you eat it, it kills the pathogen inside, so that you do not get the malaria. Many of the world's major rivers have dams to control the flow of water. Which consequence of this is a long-term benefit to humans? Holding silt in the reservoir so that it does not. No. If it is holding silt, then that kind of leads to erosion of the dam itself. It's not going to be benefit to humans. Providing a reservoir of still water for mosquito larvae, that's going to be very dangerous, because it will grow into mosquitoes, cause malaria as well. Separating migrating fish from spawning grounds, not necessary. Storing water for humans to drink. This is like something related to the statement they have asked, which is benefiting humans. A male gamete leaves the pollen tube immediately after the pollen tube has entered which structure? Many students get confused. This is ovule. So we have an ovary, and then we have the ovule, and there's going to be this opening here. So when it reaches ovule, it's going to burst, because it absorbs the cell sap, and then it bursts, it releases the male gamete into the ovule, not ovary. What are genetically identical? Brothers sit in the family? No, because they are made from sexual reproduction. Cutting, fronting from the same plant? Yes, obviously, because this is the answer. Why? Because when you take something from the same plant, that means the parts they grow with with the help of mitosis, and mitosis results in the production of similar gametes from the same plant. The gametes are produced by meiosis, and meiosis is the type of cell division which results in genetically different can be gametes, or it can be offsprings as well. Moving on towards question number 35. The diagram shows some of the stages in the human reproduction. Where in the body is stage 2? Okay, the stage 2 shows that this is the ovule, and this is a sperm attached to the ovule. So it occurs in the ovary because site of fertilization, basically where fertilization occurs, is the fallopian tube or oviduct. So it's oviduct. Which now correctly pairs a hormone with its function in the menstrual cycle? FSH stimulates release of eggs. No, this is done by LH. LH stimulates release of eggs. Yes. Estrogen maintains. No, it repairs. These two words are really important. Repair is used for estrogen, and progesterone is used to maintain. Two heterozygous plants are crossed. What is the likely ratio of homozygous genotype to heterozygous genotype in the offsprings? So two heterozygous plants. Now heterozygous gene combination, when there are heterozygous gene combinations when there are two different alleles for a particular trait. For example, I say AA. This is heterozygous, and then I just pair them. I get AA, and then. So we have homozygous genotype is this and this, and then so it's 2:2, 1:1, 37A. So this is it.